So please, can you tell us a bit about your role at Worldline?
Sure. So I head up acquiring for Worldline in the UK. Essential part of my role is to ensure the team have a deep understanding of customer requirements. So we're able to offer bespoke solutions. It also enables us to streamline and expedite the payment process, improve the payment journey for both the merchant and consumers. And it's essential that we understand the granular detail of how merchants process transactions so we can ensure that we're able to offer them the best value for money.
That's good, thank you. Please, can you share some key trends and developments in acquiring?
Sure. So there's been a significant rise, as you'd probably expect, in contactless transactions from 7 to 24% in the last 4 years. The pandemic obviously accelerated the process. Inevitably, and the shift continues to move away from chip and PIN. This enables frictionless transactions, increasing revenue for merchants. And there's also increased consumer demand to accept different card types. So Alipay, WeChat, JCB, UnionPay, and so forth. So they're the key trends that I would underline.
Very much. And you mentioned merchants then. So sort of how important is acquiring for merchants?
So acquiring is an essential part of the card payment process. So acquirers essentially act as a link between the merchant, issuers, and payment networks, providing authorization, clearance, and settlement. Having an end-to-end solution is essential for the merchant to get value for money. And essentially, this is something that we look to provide wherever possible for our merchants.
Thank you. And which key elements, Mark, would you say of acquiring a merchant's harnessing to streamline their business?
Well, to ensure it's easy to manage the reconciliation process is always something that's high on all of our merchants' lists. To improve conversion rates and reduce transaction costs, again, is obviously important to merchants. To optimize fraud and chargeback handling, as we see an increased amount of transactions being processed online, there is, of course, an increased amount of fraud and chargeback. So having a robust system in place that preempts and I preferably avoids those, and then acquire with a dedicated team of analysts to be able to help with that process is essential.
Thank you. And what factors should merchants consider when setting out their acquiring strategy?
I'd say the biggest factor would be pricing. So there's two different types of pricing within acquiring. You have interchange plus and blended. Blended pricing is typically suitable for SMEs because it offers a fixed pricing akin to a fixed rate mortgage, if you like. So it helps small businesses to budget, know exactly what they're going to pay. The interchange plus pricing gives the merchant complete transparency. It breaks down the interchange, the scheme fees, and the acquiring margin, which are essentially the three elements of acquiring pricing. The interchange and scheme fees are pass-through charges. So with an interchange plus pricing, if they increase, then that is a pass-through charge to the merchant. However, of course, larger merchants are more able to absorb those increased costs. But as a benefit of the interchange plus pricing and their lower risk from an acquiring perspective, it enables the merchant to negotiate a better price, which is obviously for larger merchants essential.
Thank you. And we've heard of the term a la carte acquiring banded out a bit. I mean, what exactly is it and what are the advantages?
A la carte acquiring is essentially a new alternative solution that allows merchants to get the best of both worlds. So via a smart routing process, we can effectively look at the transaction and route it through the most economical and expedite the process as far as is possible. So whether that be a local card scheme type or international card scheme type, whichever is the best fit for the customer. So essentially, from the merchant's perspective, that ensures they're able to process the transaction for the cheapest possible cost. And it also expedites the payment process, which of course improves the customer experience.
Great, thank you. And so kind of on the same sort of topic, how does this sort of acquiring, how does a la carte acquiring facilitate greater financial reconciliation?
So it essentially allows a single solution for monitoring transactions, which is of course important to merchants. And it also allows merchants to establish if transaction fees are correct. It allows them to see chargeback charges and ensure that all fees being implemented by the acquirer are actually correct.
Brilliant. Thank you. And so how did the sort of pandemic influence the acquiring market?
Had a huge impact on the acquiring market, as you would expect. So essentially the way, as we touched on before, the way in which consumers purchase goods has changed forever. Online payments have increased exponentially. Although, again, as we touched on before, there's been an increase in fraud and chargebacks. So having preventative systems in place to help keep these to a minimum is, of course, paramount, and something that is even more of a focus for our merchants when we have interaction with them.
Thank you very much. And you sort of mentioned sort of the focus that merchants need to really prioritize at the moment, but how has the consumer merchant behavior changed in recent times, and what is driving any change?
Well, as we've touched on, so that fundamentally consumer behavior has changed forever. Millions of consumers have formed new buying habits, particularly, the older demographic or consumers who weren't as tech savvy, who were forced to make online purchases, have now developed new habits. They've become comfortable with that process, and that is a trend that continues post-lockdown. So I think essentially it was something that was happening anyway, but the pandemic has expedited that process.
Great. Thank you very much, Mark. That was really interesting.
Pleasure.
Thank you.